I wanted this to say 2021, but this set only comes with one of each number. What what if I want to put a date on there, man? I only get one of each number? I'm gonna have to get another sheet of letters. Just, I don't have enough E's and I don't have enough numbers. So, I'm gonna discuss all of the movies I saw in 2021. This is by no means a top 10 list. I didn't see everything I wanted to see. I didn't manage to get around to Dune. Licorice Pizza isn't playing fucking anywhere. I started the Edgar Wright Sparks Brothers documentary last night, but then I had other things to do, so I didn't get around to finishing that. But we will go over the ones I did see. And I gotta say, this year was a pretty good year for movies. There were basically, like the only movies I thought were bad were the ones I went into with the knowledge that they would be bad. I was not disappointed by, anything this year. We're gonna go from worst to best, although before we get into it, I did want to mention Judas and the Black Messiah, which I think is technically a 21 movie, but it was nominated for a 2020 Oscar. And also, I don't want to have to rank this against some of the sillier films I've put near the top of this list. So, Judas and the Black Messiah, great movie, about a very important topic. I'm glad someone finally made, a really good Black Panther movie. Not Black Panther the superhero, the Black Panthers, the organization. Yeah, I highly recommend Judas and the Black Messiah. Good movie. I will not be ranking it in this list. With that, let's get to the worst movie I saw this year, Run, Hide, Fight. Yes, the fucking Daily Wire movie, although, in the film's defense, it is not that overtly political. And in fact, from what I can tell, this is a film that was already made, and the Daily Wire just bought the rights to it. It's the first film ever put out by the Daily Wire. Dear God, is this gonna lead to a long string of, just horribly terrible conservative movies? This movie is not that overtly political. There's twinges of it. You can kind of tell it's definitely got a conservative slant, but it's not a political movie. I'll say that much. It was not what I was expecting, which is actually kind of my biggest problem with the movie. It was such a disappointment because this is just kind of like a boring Die Hard ripoff. You know, it's a Die Hard but movie. It's Die Hard but in a school. It's also potentially a dangerous movie because it's about the school shooting, right? The school shooting is happening and this girl is running around warning everyone hey, there's a school shooting going on in the cafeteria, which is fucking ridiculous because they fire off several shots. And look, man, guns are fucking loud. Guns are loud as shit. And if there's any movie I expected to know that guns are loud as shit, it's the pro-gun school shooter movie. So, if you fire a gun in a school, everyone's gonna hear it. Everyone's gonna know there's a gun going off in this school. But she's running around trying to tell people, hey, there's a school shooting going on, and a bunch of them don't believe her for some reason. But then it gets into, she's trying to fight back against these guys, and that's just, don't do that. Don't put yourself in harm's way. That is how you get shot. This character should have been shot. This is bad advice for dealing with a active shooter situation. At one point, her father pulls up with, a hunting rifle and is trying to, shoot the kids in the school from up on top of a hill. And it's no! No, that's dangerous! Don't do that! You're gonna get people killed! And then near the end of the movie, the lead bad guy is getting away, and the girl sees him getting away, and instead of telling any of the heavily armored SWAT guys right there, oh, look, he's getting away, go get him, she decides she has to go chase him down and kill him herself. Bad advice. Do not do anything you see in this movie. Do not imitate this movie. This is bad advice for dealing with an active shooter situation. Other than sort of pointing and laughing at it for being bad advice for an active shooter situation, this is mostly just a boring movie. It's not that interesting at all. Of course, Ben Shapiro and his comrades at the Daily Wire are saying, "Oh, people are just giving this bad reviews because it's a Daily Wire movie," and to some extent, they're probably right. There probably are people going on IMDb and Letterboxd and just giving this the lowest rating because it's a Daily Wire movie. But much like Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, where they were complaining that people were just like giving it the lowest rating based on who made it. Yeah, there's probably some truth to that, but also, this is a shitty movie. Like, don't watch this movie. It's not even worth it. It's not even worth it to dunk on. There's nothing to dunk on in this movie. It's just boring. Now, this film is only available through the Daily Wire website, so this is the rare case where I want to make it very clear I pirated this movie. I did not give the Daily Wire one fucking cent. I pirated this movie. Run, Hide, Fight. Don't recommend it. Not even for a laugh. Not even to dunk on the Daily Wire. It's not worth it. It's just boring. It's not even really a Daily Wire movie. It's just a boring Die Hard ripoff. If the Daily Wire puts out more movies, especially if they put out more overtly political movies, I will watch them. I will dunk on those too, but this one's just not worth it. Moving up the list, we have Chaos Walking, a film that has just been in development hell for like, I want to say a whole decade now. It's not had a good run of it. Apparently Charlie Kaufman was attached to it pretty early on, although it's changed so much since he was working on it that he doesn't even get a credit on it. It's based on a book, and I can definitely see how Charlie Kaufman would want to be attached to this. It's about this kid who lives on a planet where men's thoughts sort of emit from their head. You can kind of see images and like hear what they're thinking. This does not happen to women on the planet, but of course there are no women on this planet anymore because, spoilers, the men killed them all. And somehow, despite their thoughts being clearly visible forever, they somehow managed to keep that a secret from Tom Holland for his entire life. They never let on that they killed all the women. How? That's just not... Someone somewhere thought about it once. This movie kind of reminds me of After Earth. I've actually proposed this as a matchup with After Earth to Michael for Hollow Victories. That's just kind of what it feels like to me. In a future civilization, there's like a ship crash landing, and it's about hiding your emotions, and the movie is ultimately pretty boring. There are like evil aliens in this movie called the Spackle, of all fucking things. But they're not really a big threat in the movie. They show up in like one scene, and after that they just never get mentioned again, and it's like, why even bother? The most interesting thing about this movie is just its production cycle, because they were kicking it around for a while. It was like finished sometime in 2019, I think, maybe even 2018, and it tested really poorly. And so they went back and like shot some extra stuff for it. And then they were gonna release it in January of 2020. And then, well, no. I think they were gonna release it sometime in 2019. And then they kicked it down the road to 2020. And then COVID happened, so they kicked it down the road even further to 2021. And it just kind of came out. They just kind of shat it out. Now, that's not inherently a bad thing. The same thing happened to another movie starring a Spider-Man actor, Under the Silver Lake. A similar thing happened to Under the Silver Lake. And Under the Silver Lake is a great movie. Please watch Under the Silver Lake. Chaos Walking, no. No, it's bad. This one was honestly a little disappointing too because I wanted something really goofy, stupid, fun sci-fi movie, and it just isn't. It's just kind of boring. There are funny moments, but they're few and far between. I don't recommend Chaos Walking either. Bad movie. Moving on. Next, we got Spiral from the Book of Saw, and they sort of advertised this as like the serious, dramatic Saw movie. This is the serious one, you guys. We're not like a goofy franchise anymore. And that really worried me. I'm like, oh, please don't make this movie boring. Please don't make a boring Saw movie. I love the Saw movies so much because they're really weird and really silly and really funny. And you know what? This movie delivered. This is exactly what I want out of a Saw movie. I was not disappointed at all. That doesn't make it a good movie. It is by no means a good movie. Please do not take that as a recommendation unless you're a fan of the Saw franchise. If you're a fan of the Saw franchise, I think Spiral delivers. Spiral is exactly what I wanted out of a Saw movie. Saw killed off their lead villain in like the third movie, and they have just been fumbling to cover for that ever since. This movie drops the pretense that the traps are set by Jigsaw, and I do think it suffers a little for that. I do think it was better when it had Jigsaw in it. Fuck, I can't remember the actor's name. Corbin something. Corbin... The guy from Saw, Jigsaw. It does suffer for not having Jigsaw in it, but... Otherwise, yeah, I think this is about what I wanted out of the movie. It does try some, like, heavy-handed political commentary. I guess, yeah, you know, about police brutality. And... who cares, man? Like, we're not here for fucking political commentary in a goddamn Saw movie, my dude. We're here to see people get killed. And they do deliver that. They deliver what I wanted, so I don't care at all about the heavy-handed political message. I'm like, alright, fine. You want to bitch about police brutality? I mean, it's an important topic, but I feel like a Saw movie is not really the place for that. Like, there are just much better movies about police brutality than this, so... not a bad message, but... again, this just doesn't seem like the place. Spiral from the Book of Saw. I do recommend it for Saw fans. I did hear some Saw fans didn't like it that much, but I did. I thought it was a good one.
Well, while I was editing this, I went and saw Licorice Pizza, so I decided to add that to the list too. You know, since there was some discourse around this. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, so I was probably already going to go see it, but the fact that there was discourse about it made me far more interested in it. And I have no clue what the discourse was all about. Like, I don't know what people are getting worked up about. like this, it's such a normal movie. Like, what are people getting upset at? Were people upset? Were people... It seemed like there were maybe people who were, like, not getting it, but there's nothing really to get. Honestly, I didn't really like this movie, but that is entirely down to personal taste. Do not let my dislike of this movie discourage you from going to see it. If you're interested in this film, you might get more out of it than I will. There are definitely people who will get more out of this movie than I will. I don't like these plotless slice of life coming of age movies. It's just a genre that does nothing for me. I think Richard Linklater gets away with it, and pretty much no one else. No one else can do this genre in a way that I find interesting. If you find these movies interesting, go off, man. Enjoy them. They just do nothing for me. So, yeah, this movie just kind of ran right through me. There's good stuff about it. It's well made. It's well acted. I like all the actors in this. I like that the leads look like actual human beings. Like, I think I know people who look like these main characters. it's a well-made movie. It even has a couple laughs in it. I laughed a few times at this. It's just it there's no story to it. I don't really like the story that much. I don't care that much about the characters. It's just a style of movie I am not at all interested in. And if you get something out of it, good for you. I am not saying that's wrong. I am not going to disagree with you. But for me personally, this is probably Paul Thomas Anderson's worst film.
Moving right along. Luca, the new Pixar movie. It was cute. I liked it. Not my favorite Pixar movie. I don't think it's even as good as like Soul. And even Soul, I'm a little... I don't think Soul is as good as some of their older stuff, but I did enjoy Soul. I thought Soul was like the first good Pixar movie we'd had in a while, probably since Inside Out. And Luca follows up with a cute movie. I do like it. There's some really good animation in this movie, because obviously the main character is this like sea monster thing, and he becomes a human when he's out of water and becomes a sea monster when he's in water. And there's this like really cool sequence where he's like flying into the ocean, and he like is skipping across the ocean, and like as he hits the water, he's like it's like human lizard, or fish, I guess. Human fish, human fish, human fish. It's like, oh, that's really good. That's really cool. Also, clearly a movie about gayness. It's a gay movie. Because before I watched this, I had seen people sort of joking about the lead characters being gay, and so I start watching it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I see how you could maybe, like, headcanon these characters as gay, and they've got a good relationship going on, but at the same time, it kind of just seems like they're really good friends. And then, when the movie hits the point where, like, the one kid who is not Luca, like, reveals himself to be a sea monster, and Luca just, like, backstabs him. He's like, oh no, it's a sea monster. I don't know this guy. At that point, I'm like, oh. No, okay, these characters are queer-coded. This is a gay movie. I made a joke on Twitter. There was, man, I love that movie about the fish man on the run from a... I made a joke on Twitter. It was like, man, I love that movie about the fish man on the run from the government who moves in with a human girl that uses the fish man as a metaphor for outsider culture with a particular emphasis on queerness. It's cute, it's fun. I don't know that it's really my thing that much. I enjoy... not that I don't enjoy it, but I definitely think it's gonna resonate with other people more than it will with me. I mean, props at the very least for some really good animation. Up next, Fear Street 1978. I watched... It is 78, right? Not like 79, 77. I think it's 78. I watched all the Fear Street movies, and I'm putting this one at the bottom. Admittedly, I don't think it hits the lows of the first movie, but it also doesn't hit the highs of the first movie either. It's just kind of a very generic summer camp slasher movie. It doesn't even have very interesting kills. Nearly all of the kills are just hit with an axe in the chest, hit with an axe in the chest, hit with an axe in the chest. And it's like, that's not interesting. There's one killer in this one instead of the many killers in the other movies. And plot-wise, it seems like probably the least important. There is a little information gleaned from this one, but nothing that you couldn't just gather from, like, the previously on Fear Street at the beginning of Part 3. Like, you could totally skip the second movie and you would not be missing anything. I might be willing to give this one a little more of a pass if they start producing, like, more Fear Street movies that are all kind of a send-up of different genres. Like, this one was a send-up of, like, Friday the 13th and The Burning type movies, clearly. So if they did another one that was, like, Killer Kids, or, like, Creepy Ghost Girls movie, which are both things they clearly set up. Maybe I could look back on this one a little more fondly, but even then, I think it's the weakest of the three. Which is not to say it's totally bad. There is stuff about it I like. Britta from Community's in it. She does a good job. I like all the characters. They're all fun. They kill some kids in this movie. More than one kid. And they do it off screen. And it's like, you fucking coward. If you're gonna kill a kid... Like, if you're killing a kid, you're doing it for shock value, right? If you're killing a kid, you're doing it for shock value. If you do it off screen, you're a coward, right? Just show the kid dying on screen. That's gonna shock people. Killing a kid off screen? That happens in like every fucking movie. Fuck you. It's got good moments. If you like the other two, I think this one is also worth watching, but it is, in my opinion, the weakest of the three. I'm gonna get a drink of water because my voice is killing me. The Green Knight, an A24 release from the director of A Ghost Story, which I thought was an excellent 20-minute short film that they padded into an excruciating hour and a half. Like, it was smart, and there were some visually interesting things going on, but my god, it didn't need to be anywhere near that long. It needed to be about a third the length that it was. It was so fucking boring. And I get that to some degree that's kind of the point. The point is that it's a very dull, slow movie, but you can get that across in 20 minutes. You don't need an hour and a half. So I was looking forward to another movie from this director because I did enjoy parts of A Ghost Story, but overall I thought it was not very good. Now, my biggest problem with The Green Knight is I think it is very much style over substance. That is not to say it is substanceless. There is definitely a lot going on in this movie. It is an entertaining movie. But there was definitely more of a focus on the style than the actual plot. In fact, if you were just telling this story in the most straightforward way, you could probably make a movie that was about 15 minutes shorter. Like, there's just like 15 minutes spent on like wild stylized stuff. And I'm fine with that. I love the visuals in this movie. But I could definitely see some people not being into just how like I said, it's style over substance. There's way more going on visually than there is in the story. And if you're looking for a story-driven movie, this is really not for you. But if you're looking for a stylish little movie with a fun story and some really good performances, it's a really well-acted movie. I liked everyone in it. Yeah, Green Knight, you could do worse. You know, it's got some fun witchy shit that I enjoy. It's got a very nice... I mean, the sets are nice, the costumes are nice, the cinematography is amazing. Yeah, honestly, I don't have that much to say about The Green Knight. I think I kind of hit it on the head. It's not substanceless. There's stuff going on, but it's very style over substance. So if you want a more plot-driven movie, this is not it. If you just want to see something that looks really cool, Green Knight looks really cool. Above that, I'm putting Bad Trip, although that's a pretty close match. I think you could probably talk me into putting Green Knight over Bad Trip, because Bad Trip also has, like, the thinnest fucking plot. This is the thinnest plot of any movie I saw this year. But, you know, mostly it's an Eric Andre movie, and it's mostly about Eric Andre and his friends doing hilarious pranks. And I gotta say, like, top-notch editing on this one. They know exactly what of the pranks to show you and what to not show you. There's like this hilarious moment late in the film where he's trying to talk an army recruiter into killing him, and the army recruiter's like, "Sir, you have asked to suck my dick in exchange for shooting me." And it's like, you didn't even see him do that. They knew it was funnier to hear that guy say it than to show Eric Andre doing it. It's really well edited. Also, my fucking god, Tiffany Haddish steals this movie. She is the highlight of this movie. She every scene she's in, she's just amazing. Like, I liked Tiffany Haddish for, like, Tuca and Birdie. I liked her in Tuca and Birdie. She's definitely in a lot of really obnoxious movies that I don't like. But I saw her in this, and I'm like, God damn it. Tiffany Haddish is a good actress. I really like Tiffany Haddish. She steals this fucking movie, man. Every scene she's in, she just commands the screen. Yeah, Bad Trip. It's a movie to watch for the comedy. The comedy is good. It's a funny movie. The story is not interesting at all. I mean, I guess it is. It's a little funny that he goes all this way for, like, this girl he barely knows. And then she just rejects him because she's like, what the fuck, I barely know you. Spoilers, I guess, but again, the plot is not important. The plot is not important. What's important is the very funny pranks they do. They meet some, like, really nice people in this movie. And, like, shit's going down, and then there's just people like, hey man, don't let this get you down. Like you two are friends, you gotta make up. And it's like, my god, man, you're just... some of the nicest fucking people in this movie. It's funny to see. Yeah, Bad Trip. It's fun. I enjoy it. Don't expect too much out of the story. Just above that, we've got the first Fear Street movie. I'm gonna warn you, the first 20 minutes of this film are terrible. The first 20 minutes are fucking excruciating. And then suddenly it just gets good. like the first 20 minutes, it feels like this super lame teen drama. Like, I've seen people compare it to, like a bad episode of Riverdale or something. I don't know, I don't watch Riverdale, but, like, yeah, it feels like a bad teen drama. And then all of a sudden it becomes good, and you're like, wait, this is a good movie? Like, everything past the 20-minute mark, I would say, is like an 8 out of 10, but the first 20 minutes are like a 3 out of 10. So, I think that balances out to, like, a good movie, a movie worth watching, especially because it sets up for the third movie, and the third movie is very much worth watching. Yeah, just be prepared. The first 20 minutes are not good. Don't turn the movie... I was really thinking about turning the movie off. And then, like, someone somewhere was like, yeah, it gets good after, like, the first 20 minutes. And I'm like, fine, I'll stick around and see if it gets good. And it did. I'm glad I stuck around. But I was really thinking about just turning it off and not watching the rest of them. These are based on, like, R.L. Stine books. They're supposed to be, like, the more adult Goosebumps. And I am interested to know how much of the books has made it into these movies. Because there's stuff I really like about these movies. And I have to wonder, is this an invention for the movie, or was this in the book? It is a female-directed movie, which is rare, although... For some odd reason, horror seems to have a lot more female directors than most genres. Like, I think about good female-directed movies, and a lot of them are like American Psycho, or Near Dark, the Fear Street movies, another one we're about to talk about in a few minutes. It's just like, yeah, what... Women directors are so rare, but when they do pop up, they're always in horror? Fear Street, after the first 20 minutes, it's really fun. There's a lot of... There's all these cool, like, killer characters going around killing people, and there's some really good kills in this movie. Is that a spoiler? I might cut that. That might have been a spoiler. Yeah. Fear Street 1, I would recommend it. Give it time. Be patient. Because it's worth it to see the third movie. We'll get to the third movie in a minute, but we got a few movies between here and there. Willy's Wonderland, the Nick Cage versus Five Nights at Freddy's movie. My biggest problem with this movie is just that they didn't lean into it harder. Also, it seems like a movie that needed a bigger budget than it had. Overall, the problem I think I have with this movie is just it's too scared to be what it is. Both tonally and, the people producing it didn't quite give it the money it needed for it to really land. I feel like if they had committed to the bit a little harder, and if they had just a little more money to, pull off some of these action scenes a little better, I could put this movie even higher. I could be like, this is a Mandy, right? Mandy was amazing, right? This is as good as Mandy. This is sort of, it's not as good as Mandy, but it's fun. It's a good movie. Just Nick Cage beating the ever-loving shit out of these animatronic robot things. It's hilarious to see. And then in the middle of it, these teens sneak into the Willy's Wonderland, and it's like there's just this normal slasher movie happening in the middle of Nick Cage's movie, right? This normal slasher movie, this completely generic slasher movie, is the B plot to Nick Cage beating the shit out of these things. One thing, they go over the backstory of this place, and it's I don't know, it gets a little less interesting when you give it too much of a backstory, because clearly Nick Cage is not interested in the backstory, and it's I think it would be funnier if characters tried to give the backstory, and then they never really could get through it because Nick Cage didn't care. Because the audience doesn't care. Who cares, man? I'm here to see Nick Cage beat the shit out of animatronics. I don't care what the backstory is. Overall, I would say it's probably the second best movie where Nick Cage fights Satanists. Because, of course, the animatronics are haunted by the ghosts of a group of Satanists. A group of satanic serial killers are haunting these animatronics. So I would put it below Mandy, above Drive Angry, way above Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Second best Nick Cage versus Satanist movie. Although, I don't know, Drive Angry does commit a little better than this. Drive Angry knows it's goofy, and it's not afraid to just be fucking goofy. I don't know, I enjoyed Willy's Wonderland. I get that it's probably not going to be everyone's thing, but I thought it was funny. Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar. This is a movie I had to watch because of word of mouth, because the advertising did a very poor job explaining what this was. The advertising made it seem like kind of this chick flick, besties going on vacation movie, and it is not that. I mean, it's kind of that, but it's so fucking buck wild. It's, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay are producers on it, so it's kind of got that, Anchorman vibe, although I kind of liked it more than Anchorman, personally. I think it goes a little goofier than Anchorman did. Because, at the core of this movie, there's, this evil plot by this evil villain, who's also played by Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig plays Star and the evil villain. So there's this evil villain who has this plot to, wipe out the entire town of Vista Del Mar. And, Barb and Star show up and kind of derail that plan. It's something that was extra funny about it is that her henchman, who sort of has this, romantic thing with both Barb and Star, is Jamie Dornan. And I watched this right after I finished my 50 Shades of Grey video, so I'm like, that's Christian Grey. That's Christian Grey. I don't care what you say to me. And it's so funny to watch this movie going, that's Christian Grey. And then you see Christian Grey do the dumbest fucking shit. Marlon Wayans is in the movie as like a minor character. And there's this very funny running gag that he's like the best spy in the world, but he keeps accidentally revealing information about himself. It's just a really funny movie. It's way funnier than the advertising made it seem like. Yeah, I highly recommend Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. Please check this out. It is well worth your time. Above that, we've got Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk film from the John Wick people. And it's definitely got a John Wicky vibe to it. Like this former super killer who comes back to kill the shit out of some bad guys. I don't think it's as good as any of the John Wick movies. The action's definitely better in the John Wick movies, but it has really good action still. It is a well-shot action film. I especially love the ending where his dad, played by Christopher Lloyd, and his brother, played by... a rapper. Which rapper plays his brother? Fuck, now I have to look it up. The RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. I can't believe I forgot that. I knew it was a rapper. It was there in my head, and I'm like, oh, which rapper is it? The RZA. The RZA plays his brother, his adoptive brother, obviously. His brother and Christopher Lloyd show up for this, like, Home Alone. Like, it's Home Alone if that was an R-rated action movie. It's just amazing. It's just fucking amazing. Like, that's all this movie is. It's just, hey, you want to see this dude kill the fuck out of some bad guys? Here you go. We know what you want. It's just, he's killing people, put bodies in the ground. I mean, that's what John Wick is, I think. It's just, hey, you want to see Keanu Reeves put bodies in the ground? Here you go. Here you go. It's Keanu Reeves killing people. They know what we want. We want big action sequences where a lot of people die. That's it. You don't need much more than that. Yeah, Nobody. It's really fun. It's a fun movie. Not as good as the John Wick movies, but if you like the John Wick movies, this is a fun, like, John Wick adjacent movie. You could even argue this is maybe like in the John Wick universe. It's definitely got its John Wick vibe to it, but yeah, I enjoy it. What are we? Some kind of The Suicide Squad? So I did not hate David Ayer's Suicide Squad. I get anyone that does. I'm not gonna try to argue it's actually good or anything. I just didn't hate it as much as a lot of people seem to. The Suicide Squad does everything Suicide Squad was trying to do, but better. Every single thing Suicide Squad tries, it does better. Like I started watching this movie, and like 3 minutes in, they had already introduced all the characters, and I'm like, oh, this is a better movie. This is already a better movie. Like, infinitely better than the first movie. Because it just gets its exposition out of the way. It doesn't take fucking 40 minutes to introduce all the characters. It also does a way better job introducing the functionality of the exploding neck bomb, right? Because in the first movie, Slipknot shows up and you're like, you didn't give this character any sort of introduction. He's gonna fucking die. And then he fucking dies. In this movie, they introduce a character and you're like, oh, this is gonna be like an important character to the plot, you know? By all accounts, he seems like he's gonna be an important character. And then they blow up his neck bomb. And it's like, oh, shit. Okay. There's a few reasons this is, like, decidedly better. For one, James Gunn is just a better director than David Ayer. No hate to David Ayer, but James Gunn is a much better director than him. Number two, James Gunn was actually allowed to, like, finish the movie. I do not blame David Ayer for the failure of the first Suicide Squad, because they were basically like, okay, here's some money, we need this movie in, like, 6 months. He's like, but there's not even a script yet. Yeah, just make it up. Just make it up as you're going. So, yeah, they kind of fucked them on the first movie. Didn't fuck James Gunn on this one. They let James Gunn do what he needed to do. Number three, this movie's rated R. So they can, like, get away with a lot more violence in this movie. A lot more swearing in this movie. You see a guy's dick at one point. Yeah, it's good. It's a really good movie. I really enjoyed Suicide Squad. It's the first, like, definitely DCEU movie that I've enjoyed. Joker and Shazam, it's kind of ambiguous whether they're DCEU or not. This is the first one that is like, this is definitely DCEU, and it's good. It's, like, actually good. And you don't have to watch any of the other movies to understand why this one's good. Other things this does better than the first Suicide Squad. Agent Waller is less of a cunt in this movie, and she gets her comeuppance. In the first movie, I really wanted her to die. Like, I hated this character in the first movie. In this movie, she gets hit over the head with a golf club, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's all she needs. She doesn't have to die. Getting hit on the head with a golf club, that's enough for this character. Yeah, it's just a way better movie than Suicide Squad. Like, there's no reason to watch Suicide Squad now, right? This is the superior version of Suicide Squad in every way. This is the Suicide Squad. Above that, I've got a little South African movie you might not have heard of called Fried Berry, about a heroin addict who gets abducted by aliens, but maybe the aliens are just part of his drug hallucinations. This movie's fucking wild, man. Like, this is some trippy ass shit. This film just goes crazy. I really enjoyed it. Like, I don't even know how much I can say about this movie, because, like, from one scene to the next, it's just like it's so high energy. It never lets up. It is just a complete hallucinatory mind fuck. It's like, hey, you ever wondered what a night of drug-induced insanity would be like? Here you go. Ultimately, I think the aliens are real. I think the aliens are supposed to be real. But at the same time, this movie does so much that you're like, are they real? Because they could be fake. They could totally be fake. I think they're real, but they could totally be fake. I don't know what else to say. A heroin addict gets abducted by aliens. If you need me to sell you any more on this, you probably won't enjoy it. Pure fucking insanity. Watch it. Candyman. Candyman, 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 Candyman. There's a mirror behind these shelves. So, a few years ago, I was talking about remakes I would actually want to see, and I'm like, I kind of liked the original Candyman, but I had my issues with it. I don't think the original Candyman is great. So I would like to see a Candyman remake. I think you could do a lot with this character. And I'm like, I know exactly who should head a Candyman remake. Jordan Peele. Lo and behold, Jordan Peele headed a Candyman remake. Now, to be clear, he wrote and produced it. He did not direct it. It was directed by a female director whose name escapes me. I'm going to look it up. Nia DaCosta. Nia DaCosta. Credit where it's due. Female director. Again, female-directed horror. Why are women so much more prolific in horror movies than any other genre? Yeah, Nia DaCosta. A black female director, too. I predict she is going to get an Oscar nomination for this. even though the Academy has definitely not seen Candyman, because they don't give a shit about horror movies. They're gonna nominate her just for being a black woman, and she's not gonna win. This is exactly what I wanted out of a Candyman movie. I'm like, yes, you nailed it. This is exactly what I wanted. You hit the nail on the head with this one. There's like creepy psychological horror stuff, and there's like commentary on like social commentary on the black community and gentrification, like actually good commentary on gentrification. There's not a lot of movies that do that well. Even like blind spotting, a lot of people liked. I enjoyed it, but I feel like the commentary was kind of lacking. It didn't really say much about gentrification other than it was happening, and this, I think, hits the nail on the head a little more with that. And of course, Candyman as, this black vengeance character. The Candyman coming in and getting revenge for the black man. Hell yeah. Great way to go with this character. I loved this Candyman. Now, I could see some people criticizing two particular scenes where it kind of derails from the main plot just to have Candyman slice up a bunch of kids, It's like high school students trying to summon Candyman at school, and then some kids trying to summon Candyman at like a sleepover party. And yeah, these are pointless scenes to just pad the body count, but you know what? I don't give a shit. I liked those scenes. If you have a problem with that, if you want this film to stay a little more focused, fine. I understand. It is totally extraneous to the plot, does not need to be there. But I enjoyed those scenes. This is a movie that was clearly made for, like, black audiences, and yet, I feel like they made exactly the movie I wanted. Right? If you came up to me and asked me personally how I would make a Candyman movie, I would make this movie. That said, my favorite character in this overtly black movie was the gay white guy. just because he reminds me of me. He's a character I can relate to. He and his boyfriend have some really funny lines. They are a very funny couple. I enjoy them. They're like the main characters. It's the main character's brother and his boyfriend. His boyfriend is the one I really like, but I like both of them. They're both very funny characters. Yeah, Candyman. Highly recommended by me. I really enjoyed it. About as much as I enjoyed Fear Street 1666. The third and final installment in the Fear Street franchise, and my god, they went out on a high note. Although thinking about it, maybe I should have put this below Candyman. Hard to say. I love the first half of this movie. The first half of this movie is perfect. I love it. The second half, yeah, it's still pretty good in the second half, but it's not as good as the first half. The first half is, it's as the title suggests, it takes place in 1666 when they're founding the city that we see in the first two movies. And it's about these two lesbian girls who get involved in Satanism and witchcraft, and you just gotta love it. There's a lesbian romance in the first movie too, and it's the same actors, right? The same actors are playing. That's the thing. Like she gets transported back in time as in like a flashback. And so the lesbians in the past are the same lesbians from the 90s. I gotta say, these lesbians are the best romance I have ever seen in a horror movie. I have never seen a horror movie with a good romance until the Fear Street movies. Like, I can't think of a single example. I can't think of a single example of a good romantic arc in a horror movie other than the Fear Street movies. I'm probably forgetting something, but I can't think of one. So the stuff in the past with like these lesbian girls who get accused of being witches, that's all good, and then you move back to the present in the second half, and they have to like finish out what they started in the first movie, and that's all good too. Also, really good social commentary. Like, it was kind of floating in the back there in the first two movies, and then this movie just takes it and pulls it forward. Because, like, obviously they were using this, like, witch's curse as, like, metaphor for, the ways rich people push down lower class people. And this movie just takes that and it takes the subtext and just makes it fucking text. I don't want to spoil it, but you know, no, I don't want to spoil it. I really don't want to spoil it, but it's so good. It's such a good twist. Uh I hate cops. Anyways, Fear Street 3, by far the best of the series, makes the other two worth watching just so you can get to this one. Above that, we've got the new Edgar Wright film, Last Night in Soho, and this is probably my least favorite of his films so far, which still makes it a really good movie because his other movies are fucking excellent. This is the first one I think has glaring issues. There's two big issues I have with Last Night in Soho. The first is that this girl needs to go to a hospital, right? Like, obviously, textually, she is actually seeing people from the past. She has supernatural powers. But the other characters don't know that. They don't know she has these powers. To them, she's having a psychotic breakdown. Please take her to a hospital. She tries to stab someone in a library. Take care of this woman. Number two is I feel like the relationship was a little underdeveloped. And to be fair, there's the suggestion that it's developing, like, off-screen? But that doesn't really make for a satisfying film narrative, right? I would have liked to see more of her romantic interest. More of them, like, bonding, getting together. Because there's this, like, really good moment where she's like, oh, I'm sorry I can't be like other people. And he's like, oh, no, I'm glad you're different. And it's like, that's a good moment. Except I don't know this guy. I don't know why he would say that. Give me more of him. Like, I would take a longer movie. This is the rare example where I'm like, make this movie longer. Make this movie longer and put in more of the romantic interest. That said, everything else about this movie is fucking awesome. Edgar Wright, great sense of visual style, so it's visually amazing. He took a lot of influence from, like, giallo films, so good call on that one. Also, just, like, the commentary this has on, like, 60s show business. Because, yeah, we just got, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of shows, like, the glitz and the glamour of 60s Hollywood. And this is kind of like, yeah, the glitz and the glamour of the 60s. Everyone was a misogynistic creep. Don't get too excited. Diana Riggs is in this movie. Perfect role for her. Perfect role for her. And she tragically passed away before the film actually came out. But, like, it's a perfect note to go out on. Because, like if you know Diana Riggs, if you know who she was, she's not playing that much of a character. She's kind of playing herself. Terrence Stamp is in the movie, and not only am I glad that Terrence Stamp is still kicking, I'm glad he's still working, because I love Terrence Stamp. What a great actor. Underrated actor. I love Terrence Stamp so much, and he's great in this movie. I mean, all the actors are really good in this movie. Matt Smith, Anna Taylor-Joy, Anya Taylor-Joy. The main character. The main character has like a guy's name. What's that actor's name? Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. Thomasin McKenzie. She has like a last name for a first name. Thomasin? Thomasin McKenzie. McKenzie's more of a first name than Thomasin. Fucking British people, man. It's Edgar Wright's first, like, distinctly non-comedy film. It's a lot more serious than his other movies. There's a joke or two in there, and they are pretty funny, but you know, it's like comic relief. It's a dramatic movie otherwise. So, you know, I think he's done a good job transitioning to a dramatic movie. I would probably prefer to see more comedy from him. It's not as fun or stylized as like the Cornetto trilogy or Scott Pilgrim. And it's not as fun as Baby Driver. So I would say it's probably my least favorite of all of his films, but it's still a really good film. I'll still keep seeing everything Edgar Wright puts out. He has not put out a bad film yet, you know, unless the Sparks Brothers documentary isn't good. But I was okay with what I saw of it. I saw the first like 30 minutes of it, and it seems like a pretty typical music documentary with like a little bit of flair. But you know, a lot of documentaries have a little bit of flair nowadays because people have gotten bored of just documentaries. Anyways, I'm running out of space on my phone, so I should probably move on to the next one. Psycho Goreman. Psycho Goreman is the best movie ever made ever. The fact that it is not at the top of this list is baffling to me. I don't know how I put two other movies over this, because this is the greatest movie ever made ever. Psycho Goreman is everything I want out of a movie. It's a throwback to like 80s genre films, but also in a very distinct way, but by doing things that you could only get away with now. Like, it is super violent, and it is like a little mean-spirited. I hate to say mean-spirited, but it's like there's an edge to it. It's an edgy movie, right? Because spoilers. The movie ends with Psycho Goreman fucking like going on a rampage and destroying all of humanity. Except the kids he becomes friends with. It's sort of like, I guess, like an E.T. parody almost. Like, the kids find an alien, and they're trying to keep it a secret, and they use the alien to their advantage, but the alien they find is, like, a character from the movie Heavy Metal, and he has to, like, fight off all of these other horrifying alien mercenaries. The movie's called Psycho Goreman, man. You get exactly what it says on the tin. I fucking love this movie. I got the Australian Blu-ray release of this. Why, you ask? Because the cover's like 1,000 times cooler than the American cover. Psycho Goreman. Watch it. Fucking watch it. This is the best movie ever made. Moving on to the two movies I put above the best movie ever made for some reason. Mitchells vs. the Machines. Yeah, I know, super shocking. Matt liked the movie about the gay cinephile who has a bad relationship with her parents. Who could have seen that coming? There are a few jokes in this movie that I don't think land, which is why I've given it a 9 out of 10. But I think if you cut those few jokes, this could absolutely be a 10 out of 10. I love the style. I love the story. I think it goes really interesting places. I love the main character, Katie Mitchell. Oh, Katie Mitchell. The last name's in the title. Katie Mitchell. Well, okay, one other problem I have. Her younger brother is clearly played by an adult. Like, she has an adult man voice. And I'm like, that is an adult man. You should have cast someone else for this character. That was bad casting. Otherwise, damn near flawless movie. I enjoyed every moment of it. just visually interesting. The story is great. It's really touching. Lots of fun action scenes. Really funny, apart from like the handful of jokes that totally don't land at all. Great characters. What else do I need to say? It's a great movie. It's such a good movie. I acknowledge that Katie is gay in a way that you could kinda cut for Chinese audiences, but at the same time, she spends the whole movie blatantly wearing a rainbow button. And then, at the very end, her mom asks her if she's gonna bring her girlfriend home for Thanksgiving. So, yeah, okay. This character is unambiguously gay. Good work. Sony? I think Sony Animation did this. I'm gonna give Sony the credit unless someone tells me otherwise. Good work, Sony. You did better than Pixar. You also did better than Cruella with Disney's first openly gay character. Disney, you have a first openly gay character every fucking year. The point of first is that there's only one of them. Stop having your first openly gay character. You can't keep having a first one. I feel like the Oscars is at a little bit of a crossroads this year, because Luca was good enough that they definitely could give Luca Best Picture. It's not like Cars 3 or anything. Even the Academy knew, no, we cannot give Cars 3 Best Animated Feature. Sorry. But Luca, they could totally give Best Animated Feature to. But Mitchell's vs. the Machines was significantly better, and it was popular enough that people have actually heard of it. So it'll be interesting to see which of those movies wins Best Animated Feature. If Mitchell's vs. the Machines wins, I will stop bitching about the Academy circle-jerking Pixar forever. If Mitchell's vs. the Machines doesn't win, if Luca wins, I will continue bitching about the Academy circle-jerking Pixar forever. Your call, Academy, because I know you really care about whether or not I make fun of you for always giving Best Animated Feature to Pixar, something everyone does. Anyways, moving on to the best movie I saw in 2021, Wes Anderson's French Dispatch. This is one of Wes Anderson's best films, and that is a wild thing to say this late into his filmography. Usually by this point, great directors have already kind of put most of their best work in the past, and now they're just kind of making, the fun stuff that they want to make, right? Tarantino's already made Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained and Kill Bill, and now he's making, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is just, a fun little movie for him. He wanted to make this movie. He's not making anything grand. He's making the movie he wants. And I kind of felt that with Wes Anderson's last movie, Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs is fun. I like Isle of Dogs, but it's nothing special compared to Moonrise Kingdom or Grand Budapest Hotel or even Fantastic Mr. Fox. French Dispatch, which I would probably put below Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest. It's still top three Wes Anderson movies. I noticed during this movie how just effortlessly funny he is. I knew he was funny, but it really struck me just how natural all of his funny moments feel. This is also his most violent movie by a wide margin, which is maybe why I like it so much. But I feel like he puts some real commentary in there that's very fun to see, number one. Number two, it's one of his funniest movies. And number three, the violence, the fact that it is his most violent movie, is in and of itself very funny, because any violence in a Wes Anderson movie just sort of stands out. It runs so contrary to his style that it's okay, that's really funny, actually. He can do really funny violence, because it's so subversive to his style. You don't expect to see a violent Wes Anderson movie, and this is that. My only real criticism of the film, okay, I have two problems with it, but one of them is a very minor thing. The very minor thing is he puts a lot of text like right at the bottom of the screen, and the theater I was watching this at had the projector tilted just slightly so that like half the text was cut off. And it's like, Wes, this is why you put your text like here, sort of just above the middle of the screen, so that if the bottom of the screen's cut off, people can still read it. The big problem I have, because that was just a thing with the theater, that won't be a problem by the time it's on Blu-ray. The problem I had was it does this mixed media thing, kind of the way Grand Budapest did, but I feel like it's a lot less purposeful in this movie. I don't know, it just sort of feels random whenever it happens. Like, it cuts to an animated segment one point, and at another point it cuts to, like, a stage play depiction of the events. Like instead of a flashback, it's a stage play version of the flashback. And I feel like it's a lot less purposeful in its weird mixed media stuff than Grand Budapest Hotel was. Otherwise, brilliant movie. Brilliant movie. One of Wes Anderson's best. I love it. Watch this movie as soon as you get the chance. Highly, highly recommended by me. And that's all the movies I saw in 2021. There's definitely still a couple movies from this year I would like to see, but that's the ones I saw in 2021. Overall, I think a very good year. I look forward to what we've got in 2022, because we're finally starting to catch up with all the things that were supposed to have been released already. So I'm interested to see what 2022 has in store. So sound off in the comments with your favorite movies of the year. Do you agree with some of my picks? Do you disagree with me? Which movies did you hate that I liked, or that you liked that I hated? There were only really like 3 that I hated that much, but just let me know what you think in the comments, and happy 2022. I look forward to the movies of this year.